In Naruto and Boruto, we've had some insane plot twists, whether it's the reveal of Obito being Kakashi's friend, Black Zetsu using Madara's body to resurrect Kaguya, or even Eid'a using Omnipotence to switch the lives of Boruto and Kawaki. They all had a significant impact on the trajectory of the universe in general and served a very unique purpose. Now this brings me to Boruto Tubu Vortex, where Code is being touted as the true villain of this story. His goal is to feed either Boruto or Kawaki to the Ten Tails, cultivate the divine tree, and consume the chakra fruit it creates by absorbing all the life on the planet. The plan itself is very sinister. It's something very fitting for the antagonist of the series. But what if I told you that Code isn't the true villain? What if I told you that the true villain doesn't even exist as yet? You see, I believe that Code will eventually be consumed by the Ten Tails, thus creating a brand new Otsutsuki using Ishiki's data within Code's karma. For this to make sense, we need to understand that the Boruto anime tends to foreshadow future events of the manga. We first saw this in the story of Kagemasa and his evil eye, which is a clear reference to Boruto's Jogan. We then had the introduction of Arume Funato, who had a scar on his right eye while being imprisoned in a container shaped like the Jogan, which of course foreshadows Kawaki giving Boruto this scar later on in the timeline. There are many more examples of this, but I'm pretty sure you guys get the point. This leads me to the Shinuchiya clones. They were introduced in Naruto Gaiden and later got adapted into the Boruto anime. You see, Shinuchiya shares many similarities to Code. He was one of Orochimaru's original experiments who possessed a body that adapted to anything transplanted into it without rejection. More importantly, similar to how Code is obsessed with and worships the Otsutsuki, more specifically Shiki Otsutsuki, Shin revered the Uchiha to a similar degree, to the point where he adopted the Uchiha name itself along with the symbol that represented the clan. Not only that, he held Itachi himself in high regards and thought Sasuke not worthy of carrying on his will, which of course is a direct parallel to how Code believes that he should be the one to carry on the will of Ishiki, not Kawaki. This will of his bled over into his clones as well, as they were mere copies of himself created using his teeth and nerves. So he believed them to be expendable substitutes he could use to replace parts of his body in order to survive. He didn't care for them, he used them as shields and mere soldiers in his mission to bring about anguish that would cause humans to evolve under the weight of their suffering. So he's basically a bootleg Pain or Nagato. Now that was basically the goal of Shin. He didn't really care about anything else. Now this brings us to chapter 2 of Boruto Tubu Vortex, where Boruto, after destroying multiple Cloud Grimes, told Code that he would lose every one of them if he insists on attacking the village. Code then replied by saying that these don't even add up to a drop in the bucket, and then he referred to them as just tools. You see, these Cloud Grimes are in a way very similar to the clones Shin created of himself using his own DNA. Code manufactured thousands of them by infusing the Ten Tails itself with his claw mark that consists of his own chakra and the iron from his own blood. Not only that, similar to how Shin's clone adopted his will, the Cloud Grimes themselves seems to be operating off Code's will as well, in the sense that the Cloud Grimes are very aggressive in their goal of acquiring an Otsutsuki and consuming the chakra of everyone in sight, which of course is Code's main objective, since he needs that to happen to become a peerless existence per the will passed down to him by Ishiki. The funny thing about this is that something very similar happened in the past with Kaguya and the original Ten Tails. As I pointed out in my recent video on Boruto resurrecting Kaguya, the original Ten Tails was already on the planet in the form of a god tree before Kaguya arrived. In fact, it's stated by a side character that the tree had been there for over several millennia. Yet, for some reason, the Ten Tails had never gone on a rampage before, not until Kaguya herself merged with the beast. You see, Hagoromo initially believed that the reason why the Ten Tails went on a rampage was due to it being robbed of its chakra fruit, referring to the fruit Kaguya had stolen from it. However, Black Zetsu, who is the will of Kaguya, later revealed that the Ten Tails wasn't just the divine tree, it was Kaguya herself. So when the Ten Tails went on a rampage trying to recollect all of its chakra, it wasn't the incarnation of the Ten Tails trying to reclaim its chakra fruit, but Kaguya's will itself attempting to take back the chakra that had been dispersed into her children. So this explains why instead of gradually absorbing the chakra of the planet and all living things, the Ten Tails became aggressive and more obvious in its exploit. It was because the Ten Tails itself was influenced by the will of Kaguya, who had once merged with it. This simply means that the Ten Tails, and by extensions the clones created by the Ten Tails, can be influenced by the person who has bonded with it, similar to Shin and his clones. With that being said, the reason why I believe that Code will get consumed by the Ten-Tails is the same reason why Shin was killed by his own clones. As I said before, Shin treated his clones like expendable substitutes whilst also instilling them with his own will and his survival of the fittest worldview. He believed that old flesh needs to be disposed of, so when Shin himself became this old flesh, he was well disposed of. A similar thing will happen to Code, since he also views these clones as disposable tools used to achieve his goal of evolution. But since he has also instilled his goals and will into these Clawgrimes and the Ten-Tails itself, they will also hope to achieve the same thing as Code as well, that of course being evolution. So when Code loses to Boruto and escapes to the Ten-Tails dimension in his battered state, they will absorb him instead, resulting in the formation of a new being. Now normally this wouldn't be the case. When an Otsutsuki is fed to the Ten-Tails, it does evolve into a divine tree, but it doesn't usually go further than that. So why would it evolve into something else by consuming Code? Well, that's because this Ten-Tails is different. As pointed out by Boruto in this chapter, these Clawgrimes are enhanced by Code due to what he did to them, which of course is referring to Code infusing them with his claw marks that consist of the iron from his blood and his own chakra. In addition to that, they also now share the same will as Code, which is the will to evolve and become a peerless existence, the will to become a god. So by Code changing the nature of the Ten-Tails, similar to what Kaguya did in the past, he also changed what the Ten-Tails would normally do when it consumes an Otsutsuki or anyone else. No longer will the Ten-Tails pass that power off in the form of a chakra fruit for someone else to consume. It will instead keep that power for itself and use it to evolve. That's what Boruto was referring to when he tells Code that he doesn't understand the true horrors of the Ten-Tails and he needs to get rid of them before he loses control. This of course is clearly foreshadowing Code losing control of the beast in the near future, which will ultimately lead to his demise. Now, as I said at the start of this video, the true villain of this series doesn't exist as yet, and that's because the being that will emerge from this fusion will be something new. To understand what I mean by this, we first need to understand the karma seal itself. You see, this technique is stated to be a highly compressed Otsutsuki backup file. Once this file is implanted into a prospective vessel, the compressed file slowly extracts over time, and once all of that data is fully extracted, the Otsutsuki will fully resurrect within that body and the person will cease to exist. And just to clarify, the karma seal not only consists of the DNA of the Otsutsuki, but also the chakra, which is separate from the chakra of the vessel itself. This was even confirmed to be the case back in chapter 64 when Boruto first used his true essence form. Code, upon seeing this power, initially thought that Momoshiki was in control of Boruto's body, which is why he then stated that Boruto is quite a puzzle. Momoshiki's consciousness, why does it emerge to this degree when Boruto is still only just a vessel? Of course, it was later revealed that Boruto was still in control of his body. He was just manifesting more of Momoshiki's power and chakra. This relates back to Code since he also possesses the karma seal of an Otsutsuki, that being Ishiki Otsutsuki himself. However, the big issue is that people for some reason believe that Code doesn't possess Ishiki Otsutsuki's DNA when that was never stated to be the case. In fact, it just doesn't make sense. The karma seal itself is a compressed Otsutsuki backup file which consists of the chakra and the DNA of the Otsutsuki, and the chakra itself that resides within the karma seal is also generated by said DNA. So Code, by way of having Ishiki's karma seal, does possess Ishiki's data within that karma seal. The only difference between Code and Kawaki is that Kawaki was able to become a proper vessel by way of being Otsutsukified, while Code could not, thus being unable to become a receptacle for Ishiki's soul. This simply means that the karma seal is unable to extract its data and Otsutsukify Code's body, but the karma seal itself is still lodged within Code's body and still consists of that data. So in the event that Code himself is consumed by this Ten-Tails, not only would he introduce his own cells, but also the cells of Ishiki Otsutsuki stored within his karma seal. In addition to that, there's also the possibility that Code's body consists of the cells of Shiba Otsutsuki, similar to Eid'a and Daemon. That's because Amado described his claw marks as Shinjutsu, which we know to be the divine arts of the Otsutsuki. These abilities can't be created in a lab, they always stem from someone else, which is similar to how Daemon's reflection ability came from Shiba's cells, and the same with with Eid'a when it comes to omnipotence. So Code's Shinjutsu claw marks also came from the cells of an Otsutsuki, which would likely be Shibai since Ishiki doesn't possess that ability. So in this case, Code would be infusing the 10 tails with his human/cyborg/Shibai cell-amped body along with Ishiki's DNA within the Karma Seal itself, and also his above Jigen level power, which is absolutely insane. Now I could see it being a case where Code doesn't actually die after being absorbed by the 10 tails, but loses his sense of self similar to what happened to Obito after he first became the 10 tails Jinchuriki. However, it could also be the case that we get to see a brand new being being molded by the newly found sentience of the 10 tails, which would actually be pretty dope. Now I just want to clarify that I wasn't saying that Code is 100% Otsutsuki, because that clearly isn't the case. If it was the case, then he wouldn't be affected by omnipotence, right? But he is affected. So obviously he doesn't have enough DNA within his body to be considered an Otsutsuki per se, which would be similar to Naruto and Sasuke, who are direct descendants of Hagoromo, who is an actual Otsutsuki, right? So Naruto and Sasuke do possess the cells of Otsutsuki to a very minute degree, but it's not enough for them to not be affected by omnipotence, which would be the same for Code, even if he has the cells of Shibai swimming around in his body. So that's basically what I was saying there, just to clarify. With that being said, let me know your thoughts on the theory itself. Do you think that Code will be consumed by the 10 tails? Do you think that the parallels between Code and Shin makes perfect sense? Or am I reaching here? That's also a possibility, but let me know why in the comment section, of course. Don't forget to like the video to get it into the algorithm, and subscribe to the channel if you're new for more Boruto centric content. With that being said again, I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace out.